Am I audible to Nilanjana madam and Umesh Das sir?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes,
you.
sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon to you. Very good afternoon to you, ma'am. Ma'am, the thing is that each and every author will get 20 to 25 minutes time to present their paper. Okay. And 5 minutes time for question answering session. Is that clear?
20 minutes for presentation.
Yeah.
20 minutes standard time for presentation. If author cannot be able to complete their presentation within 20 minutes, 5 minutes buffer time will be given to their author in order to complete their presentation. Right. And after that question answer session will be started up, and that will be of 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. That is the standard time that we are having for this session. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. This session will be chaired by Dr. Shantanu Padikar of Makout, Dr. Umesh Das of UEM Jaipur, and Dr. Nilanjana Dattoray from IEM Kolkata. The session will have 7 presentations. The sessions will be moderated by these 3 chairs. Now I request the chairs to please take the session forward from here. Thank you.
Sir, can we start now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Hello, I think we should decide what is the presentation time, 10 minutes and 2
No,
minutes or 8 to?
No, the presentation time is 20 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
They have to complete within 20. 5 minutes is buffer time and 5 minutes for question answer.
Okay. 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 Then with the other session chairs, I think we should start.
Sure, sir.
Oh.
Sure.
Paper ID number 4 is here.
Yes, I'm around.
Vincent Nyangresi.
Yes, I'm around.
Okay, you can start.
All right, thank you. So my name is Nyangari Vincent. And then I bring a presentation on a paper whose title is Forward and Backward Key Secrets Preservation Scheme for Medical Internet of Things. So I'm doing so on behalf of 4 other co-authors shown on this screen. So we move on to the introduction, where we note that wireless healthcare networks can facilitate real-time monitoring and also allow some timely intervention when required. And in so doing, they can potentially enhance the quality of patient lives, as well as lead to the reduction of the healthcare costs. However, we note that sensitive and private data are being transmitted over these networks to the medical servers using some wireless public channels. Therefore, a number of attacks can be launched against the collected data, which can violate the patient's privacy, as well as cause some inappropriate response from the side of the medical health workers. So to curb these challenges, many schemes have been developed to offer security and privacy, but we note that privacy, security, and performance issues still remain unsolved. And one of the reasons is that the sensors that are deployed in these networks have extremely low communication, as well as storage capabilities. And therefore, it is challenging to design a robust and yet efficient security solutions. So in this regard, in this paper, we develop a scheme that uses the bilinear pairing mappings to offer security and privacy protection in these networks. So we deploy random numbers and timestamping during the generation of the security tokens so as to protect against packet replace attacks. Then we also carry out exhaustive security analysis to show that the proposed scheme offers perfect forward and backward key secrecy through multi-authentication as well as session key negotiation. In addition, we try to show that the proposed scheme is resilient against a number of attacks, such as packet replace. And then lastly, we also carry out a performance evaluation of the developed scheme to show that the proposed scheme has low computation and communication complexities when compared with other related schemes. So in terms of the execution, the proposed scheme is executed in 5 main phases, which include session initialization, registration, login, authentication, then finally you have session key negotiation. So during the initialization phase, what happens is that in order to establish a secure communication session among the various components of the medical Internet of Things, then at the gateway node, it's required to associate as well as derive necessary security parameters. So this carried out in a 3-step process, which begins by having the gateway node generate some parameter set as shown in step 1, after which it selects some random numbers R1. And then it also derives its own public key. And in step 2, it selects some two one-way hashing functions, H1 and H2, which is followed by the selection of some symmetric encryption for secure data exchanges. In step 3, it selects some two private integers for before publishing a secure parameter shown in step 3, while secretly keeping a 3 parameter set shown in step 3. So we move on to the registration phase, where we note that to prevent malicious nodes from invading these networks, then it is required that the body sensor units as well as the hospital medical servers need to register at the gateway node. So this is carried out by the hospital medical server as well as the body sensor units. So during the hospital medical server registration, what happens is that the waiting node generates some unique identity for the hospital node, for the hospital medical server. Next, it binds this identity to some random integer R1. Then this is followed by the derivation of security parameter A1 as shown in step 1. Then in step 2, the hospital medical server buffers the computer security parameter A1 in its memory, while the gateway node also stores the identity of this particular hospital medical server in its database. During the body sensor unit registration, the process begins by having the BSU generate some identity, which is followed by the generation of its private key. Next, it generates some random integer R2 for subsequent security parameter derivation. Then in step 2, using these computed parameters, the BSU derives the security parameter A2, after which it constructs some registration request message that it transmits to the gateway node over some secure channel. And in step 3, upon receiving this message, the gateway node generates security parameter B1, B2, as well as B3. It then constructs some registration response message that is sent back to the BSU. Then in step 4, on obtaining this message from the gateway node, the BSU extracts and buffers the parameter set B1, B2, B3, as well as R2 in its memory. Then now we move on to the login phase, which is executed in 5-step process. So the process begins by having the patient input some private key, upon which the data aggregator derives security parameter B1 as well as B3. This is followed by the validation of the security parameter B3, such that the login is terminated if they are not equal. Then in step 2, the DA generates some random integer R3 for the computation of security parameter C1 and C2. Afterwards, it composes some authentication message M1 that is sent over to the gateway node. In step 3, on receiving this message, the gateway node computes a security parameter C3, C4, as well as deriving security parameter C2 with an asterisk. This is followed by the validation of this recomputed parameter vis-a-vis the one that was received from the DA. So if they are equal, then the gateway node accepts the BSU as a legitimate entity. Otherwise, the verification process, the login process is rejected. In step 4, the gateway node derives security parameter B1 as well as the symmetric key SK. And then use of using this key, it can also encrypt a list of authenticated HMS in this database. So finally, the gateway node constructs authentication message M2 that is sent over to the DA. Upon receiving this message, the DA updates the list of authenticated gateway nodes in its memory. Now move on to the last phase, which is the authentication and key negotiation phase, which consists of 7 steps. And the process begins by having the BSU through the DA send some connection request to the hospital medical server, upon which this server transmits the identity. Then instead, upon receiving this identity, the BSU checks and confirms whether this identity is within its list of authenticated HMSs. So the authentication process is normally terminated when this identity can never be located in this table. Otherwise, the DA proceeds to compute security parameter D2, D3, as well as D4. Finally, it constructs some message M3 that is sent over to the hospital medical server. In step 3, on receiving this message, the hospital medical server determines the current timestamp which it uses to check on the freshness of the received message MA3. Meanwhile, the DA also derives the session key to protect the communication process in step 4. In step 5, the host medical server recomputes security parameter D2 to D4 before validating the recomputed security parameter D4. If this verification is successful, then the DSU will have been successfully authenticated by the DA. So in step 6, the host medical server generates a random number R4 that it uses to derive session key and the security parameter 5. So finally, it constructs some authentication message MA4 that it forwards to the DSU in step 6. Then lastly, upon receipt of this message M4, the DA recomputes security parameter 5 that it also verifies against the received parameter. So if these two parameters are not equal, then the authentication process is rejected. Otherwise, both the BSU and the HMS will have successfully authenticated each other, and therefore they can set the derived session keys to protect the traffic. So we now move on to the security evaluation, where we use a number of lemmas. So there were around 9, but because of time, I'm going just to present about 4 of them. So the first one is that the proposed scheme offers perfect forward and backward key secrecy. So the assumption made is that an adversary has captured the current session key and is interested in deriving the session key for the subsequent as well as the previous session. However, we note that this derivation of the session key in our scheme incorporates some random numbers such as R4, as well as timestamps. And therefore, it means that the generated session key is session specific. And therefore, it means that an attacker is unable to derive any valid session key without these timestamps as well as random numbers. Then in proof number 2, we try to show that impersonation attacks are prevented in this scheme, where we note that in order for the attacker to masquerade as a legitimate BSU, then a valid authentication message MA3 must be constructed. But we note that the construction of this message requires some identities. For example, we require the identity of the host medical server. We also need the identity of the body sensor unit, as well as some random numbers R2. Then finally, we also need the private key of the patient. Since all these parameters are unavailable to the attacker, and they are also protected by one-way hashing operation, it means that it is computationally invisible for these parameters to be eavesdropped by the attacker. Proof number 3, we try to show that our strong authentication is offered in our scheme, where we note that all the communication entities in this scheme execute mutual authentication through the validation of all the exchange tokens. So for example, the HMS authenticates the BSU through the validation of security parameter D4, while the BSU authenticates the HMS using parameter 5. So in addition, we see that the BSU also maintains a list of authenticated host medical servers, aside that the authentication process is terminated when they receive the identity of the particular HMS is not within this table. Then proof number 4, we try to show that spoofing attacks are effectively prevented in this scheme, where we note that any successful login request requires legitimate identities such as the identity of the patient, the identity of the hospital medical server, as well as the identity of the body sensor unit. In addition, the valid secret keys such as the private key of the patient, as well as the public key of the gateway node are also needed for this session. In addition, we use a number of of security parameters such as C1 and C2 that must be properly computed by the attacker to launch these spoofing attacks. So due to the incorporation of these transient security parameters such as P1 and R2 during the computation of these security tokens, then it means that the generated parameters are stochastic, and therefore it means that an adversary is unable to accurately compute these security parameters to launch spoofing attacks. Now we move on to the performance evaluation of the proposed protocol. So we find out that during the performance evaluation of authentication protocols, computational complexity as well as communication overheads are the most commonly used parameters, and therefore in this paper, we also use these two parameters. So based on this graph, we can see that the scheme proposed in reference 24 has the highest computation complexity, while the scheme proposed in reference 34 had the lowest computation complexity. So the proposed scheme came second in terms of the computational complexity. But we note that although the scheme in 34 had better performance in terms of the computational complexity, it has a number of security challenges. So for example, it is susceptible to sensor node capture attacks, replay attacks, and it can also not provide forward and backward key secrecy. So in terms of the communication complexity, we made use of the sizes of the messages that were exchanged during the authentication and the key agreement phase. And again, we note that the scheme proposed in reference 24 has the highest communication complexity, while the proposed scheme had the least communication complexity. So in conclusion, we have seen that smart technologies can be adopted in the healthcare sector to reduce the cost as well as provide some timely intervention. However, security and privacy remains major issues in these networks, and therefore a number of protocols have been developed to this effect. However, we have seen that a number of security as well as privacy and performance issues are still inherent in most of these systems, and therefore the proposed scheme has been shown to have the least communication cost and lower computation cost when compared to other related schemes. So in terms of security, it also offers the best security features compared to the other security protocols. So this marks the end of my presentation. If there is any question, feel most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a very nice presentation. If anybody wants to ask any questions.
Okay, I have one question. So have you performed any comparative study of your proposed method?
I think we have shown through those graphs that we have tried to compare the proposed scheme against other related schemes that have been proposed by other researchers using metrics such as computation complexity as well as communication complexity.
You have not shown it in your presentation.
Thank you.
If anyone has any other questions.
Okay, thank you.
No question from my side.
So I believe there are no other questions. So thank you, Vincent.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Paper ID number 6, are you there? Paper ID number 6.
Yes, sir.
Nilashri
Yeah, I'm
Hazra.
here.
Okay.
I'm here. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible. You can start.
Okay. Let me give a minute. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, it is visible. You can start.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am Nilashri Hazra. I am pursuing PhD from Techno India University under supervision of Dr. Malavika Bhattacharya and Dr. Jyoti Shekhar Banerjee. Dr. Debojyoti Paul also helped me a lot for doing this research work. And my work is on creation and statistical analysis for creation and statistical analysis of a corpus for Indian ankylosing spondylitis patients with focus on COVID-19. Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Ankylosing spondylitis is a genetic disease, or you can also say it's an autoimmune disease, which is, in short, we can say that AS disease or angspon. So, unfortunately, I am suffering from this disease, and I have to take a long gap in my academic career for this reason. And I think that it is You will consider this as a key motivation to choose this subject as my research work. So now coming to the title, that creation and statistical analysis of a corpus for Indian ankylosing spondylitis patients with focus on COVID-19. I would like to explain the terms I have used in my title. So first, I would like to explain first the term ankylosing spondylitis. Sometimes whenever we feel some pain in our neck, in our back portion, in our spine, whether there is difficulties in sitting or standing, we think that we are suffering from spondylosis. But that is normally, in most of the cases, that is cervical spondylitis. And cervical spondylitis is a general term for the age-related wear and tear affecting the spinal disc in your neck. Is as the discs are dehydrated and shrink, the signs of osteoarthritis develops, including bony projections along the edges of the bones, that is spurs. You can see the bone spurs here. Cervical spondylitis is a very common and worsen with age. Like 50 up aged people, they are mostly affected with this type of spondylitis. Now I'm coming to the part of what is spondylitis. It means inflammation of the spinal bones or joints between the vertebrae. In several cases, the vertebrae, it can leave the spine hunched. Now I'm coming to the final term, ankylosing spondylitis. Ankylosing spondylitis, if the bones are begin to fuse, the condition referred to as ankylosing spondylitis. There is no cure of ankylosing spondylitis, as this is a genetic disease, and I have already asked that this is a autoimmune disease. The medication and exercise, medication like biologics and NSAID means non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, and exercises like cycling, yoga, going to gym, swimming, these are the part of the exercise which the patients have to do as a part of their treatment. That can ease the pain or to keep the back strong. Now I would like to show you a X-ray image of an spine of an ankylosing spondylitis patient in severe case. You can see here the spines, the small bones in the spines, they are getting fused, and there is no gap in between the bones. So the spine is getting fixed or stiff, and the patient lost its flexibility. Now, one of the respected reviewer, he also raised the question that what is the difference between spondylosis and ankylosing spondylitis? So I would like to share with you of all that what is the basic differences of these two. Spondylosis is not a genetic disease, but in case of ankylosing spondylitis, it is a genetic disease linked with HLA-B27 gene. In normal spondylosis, the bones are not fused. But in case of ankylosing spondylitis, the bones get fused. There is no impact on heart tissues or tendons in spondylosis. But in severe cases, the heart tissues and tendons can affect the patients. So I would like to show you the picture of a normal anatomy of a normal person. There you can see that the small bones, there are gaps in between the small bones. But in case of ankylosing spondylitis patient, here you can see the back, the spine is a bit hunched, and the bones are getting fused with each other, and the patient lost his flexibility. Now, there are some other medical conditions which are also associated with the ankylosing spondylitis patients. Those are normally called the comorbidities. There are several types of comorbidities, but one that often take place in case of ankylosing spondylitis is eye inflammation. Here, along with the inflammation in the bones, your eye can also get inflammation and the vision can lose if not treated properly or on time. Along with that, a breathing problem can also take place as the lung cannot expand properly. And apart from these, there are several types of comorbidities like knee pain, leg pain, ankle pain. There are pain in every joints of the body. And the pains are so severe and these are felt mostly late in the night. And there are for this pain, a patient cannot sleep properly, so sleep disorder also takes place. For sleep disorder, fatigue can happen with this type of patients. There are so many things like weak digestion, sexual dysfunction, diarrhea, bowel dysfunction, chest congestion, skin disorder can take place in case of ankylosing spondylitis as comorbidities. So I have chosen the part for the corpus to create only for the Indian patients. That is because what is the main difference between the developed countries AS patients and the Indian AS patients? The major difference is that the developed countries patients are under health insurance coverage. For that reason, they can take the expensive medicines like biologics and they can also do the surgeries. But in case of ankylosing spondylitis Indian patients, they are not under any insurance, health insurance coverage. And for that reason, they cannot afford the expensive medicines like biologics or the operation, etc. As the developed countries has a proper medical insurance, the insurance companies also have the proper database of these type of patients. But here we can't get any database from the health insurance companies, as the patients are not under medical coverage. That's why we can't know, we don't know that how many patients they are actually suffering from this disease. Now, the Indian ankylosing spondylitis patients under focus of COVID-19. The COVID-19 period was tough for everybody, but in case of ankylosing spondylitis patients, as they are not able to do their regular jobs or lead regular life properly, many of them lost their jobs. And for the global economic slowdown, we all know that there is a crisis. And also because of the lockdown, the gyms were closed, they couldn't go outside for swimming, they couldn't cycle, so actually they couldn't do any exercise as a part of the treatment, so they could not get medicines as they don't afford that in this under this condition, and they couldn't go to do any exercise. For these two reasons, the inflammation of the disease increased a lot. And as the disease increased, there was a hesitance to take the COVID-19 vaccine because of they were afraid of the side effects of the vaccine, or some who was willing to take the vaccine, but some of them couldn't go to the center to take the vaccine. Now, the motivation to create the corpus was to remove the misconception among the patients on COVID-19 vaccine, as if they take the vaccine, the disease will flare. This was a conception among the patients, and I thought that we will make a corpus to remove the misconception among the patients. And also to establish that vaccine has insignificant side effect on AS patient. And also analyze the influencing factor behind the opinion towards the vaccine. If they are willing to take the vaccine, then which are the influencing factors, and if they are not willing to take the vaccine, which are the influencing factors. For this reason, we made a questionnaire. That questionnaire with the help of Google Docs. There, the scope of the set of questions includes the point of view of the AS patient towards the COVID-19 vaccine. And also the questionnaires covers the clinical aspect like their condition of the disease, medication practice, list of major illnesses other than AS, duration of their AS disease, etc. The questionnaire was exhaustive to capture the larger spectrum, but at the same time, it should be user-friendly so that none of the AS patient might hesitate to fill out the questionnaire. Now, I would like to give a overall overview of the questions that we have segregated the questions in 7 different sections. There, the generic age related question, first was the generic age relations questions that male, female, what are their age, what is the state of their medical the condition right now, COVID-19 vaccine status of the AS patients, willing to get COVID-19 vaccine related questions, status of their vaccination, that if they are vaccinated or not vaccinated or not willing to get vaccinated. And the reason behind their antipathy towards the vaccine, this section was applied to only those who are not willing to take the vaccine. The impact of COVID-19 disease on AS patients related question was there. This section applies to only those who got infected. And the influencing factors to build the opinion of AS patient towards the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I would like to clear it in a table manner, in a table format, that how many questions were there and how we designed those questions. Generic AS related questions was, there was 7 questions, and among the 7 questions, 4 was they have to choose only one option among the many, and 2 questions were like they have to choose multiple options. They can choose multiple options, and 1 was rating a scale that they had to rate their disease in present condition from 0 to 10. COVID-19 vaccine related question was 1. That was that they have to fill only one option among the many. Willing to get vaccine related question was 3. There was 3 questions where they have to choose only one option among the many. Got vaccine related question was total 8, where 7 was they have to choose only one option among the many, and there was a question where they could choose multiple options. Not willing to get vaccine related question was 8. Those questions were all one of many type of questions. Got COVID-19 infection related question was 3, where they had to choose only one option among the many. And influencing factors, and there was also 2 short questions in the COVID-19 infected related questions. And influencing factors related question was only 1, where they could choose multiple options. Here I would like to present a diagrammatic representation of the questionnaire. There, about 1,000 of patients, they participated in the survey, and of all of the patients had to fill up the sorry, let me get back to the slide. The generic question, all of the patient had to fill up the questions of the generic type of questions. Then they were asked that if they were got vaccinated, not got vaccinated, or not willing to get vaccinated. Every set has different questions. And everybody has to fill up that they were got infected or not. If they were got infected, then there was another set of questions, COVID related questions were there. And if they were not got infected, then all of the patients, they had to fill up the last question set, that is influencing factors. Now I'd like to show the histogram of sample population on age. The survey form filled by the persons who are mostly average of 35 years old. Here we can see the aged people fill the form in very less of number of the aged people who fill the form. But the average age of who fill the form most was 35. 30, 40 years old people also, we got very good response from them. Now I'd like to present a chart, diagrammatic column representation of the person who were infected with COVID-19 based on gender. where we can see that males are more affected with COVID-19 than female. That is because males were more exposed to the outer world or to the outer environment, whereas females were mostly at home that time. Now, I would like to explain the effect of vaccine which came out of this survey. The outcome of the survey shows that only 52% of the vaccinated AS warriors had some side effects lasting for only 1 to 3 days. 37% didn't have any side effect, and only 4% of them have a side effect that continued for more than 10 days. Only 30% of the AS warriors need to take leave from work after getting vaccinated because of the side effects. And the opinion which we got from this survey, which came out from this survey was the patients under extreme condition of AS are mostly having antipathy. Those type of patients were 26.5%, near about 26.5%, than the patient with less impact. The main reason behind such antipathy is that they are afraid of getting their AS disease to flare. Now, if we come to this diagram, this column presentation, we can see that only 37% of the patients, they didn't have any side effect. And if any side effect was there, that is only fatigue, mostly the fatigue and the fever or chills. But as the patients were afraid to get the vaccine because of the disease flare, here we can see that the flare of disease, the percentage of flare of disease is very less. So the observations which came out from the survey was the use of biologics. I have already shared that biologics is a medicine which the patients used to take for their treatment, which are very expensive also. The use of biologics among the Indian patients is significantly less than that of the globe, mostly because the Indians are not allowed to get any insurance coverage for ACE. The huge cost of biologics is next to impossible to bear by most of the Indians because of their economic conditions. And moreover, the major influencing factor behind building the opinion towards the vaccination is the advice of the doctors, that is 31%. But the second influencing factor is the social media, that is 25%, which includes the WhatsApp and Facebook groups of the AS patients. 89% of the AS patients would like to recommend the other AS patients to take the vaccine, which needs to be increased. And further research needs to be made to increase this percentage. Now, I would like to come to the conclusion what we get from the survey reports or from analyzing the survey. That is, the AS patients are more infection prone than non-AS Indian patients. I will come to this point again to explain it under the from the biotechnological point of view. Now, I'll conclude that women are less vulnerable to COVID-19, which also came out from the survey. Indian AS patients are 10x vulnerable to COVID-19 than non-AS Indians. Even being more vulnerable, 10% of Indian AS patients are not willing to be vaccinated, mainly because of disease fear. But as we have seen earlier that from the survey that there is no fear to take the vaccine, as vaccine is very safe for these patients. Physician and social media have the highest impact to build the opinion among the Indian AS patients. Now, I'm coming to the first point, that is AS patients are more infection prone than non-AS Indians. That is because, which I have told earlier, that AS means ankylosing spondylitis is a genetic disease as well as it is an autoimmune disease. What is an autoimmune disease? Autoimmune disease is a disease that our body have our own immune system. But sometimes what happens if there is some virus or bacteria attack from the outside, our body immune system try to kill those virus or bacteria and works on them. But in case of autoimmune diseases, some of the healthy cells of our own bodies, they may be from the joints, they may be from the skins, the antibodies, the immune system of our own body, they mistakes them as the foreign bacteria or virus and starts working on them, and the disease occurs. So for for AS patients, for ankylosing spondylitis patients, they have to take the immunosuppressive drugs. Immunosuppressive drugs means where the patients are taking the drugs and to suppress the immune system to act on the healthy cells. But beside that, what happens that if some infection like virus or bacteria attacks to the body of the patients, they are also can't act properly on those foreign bacteria or virus. For this reason, the patients are vulnerable to any infection disease. And our survey also reflects the same thing. So now let me thank you everyone. And this is my last slide. I want to thank you everyone. And I will thank the organizers also to give me this platform to share the survey and the work on this platform. If you have any question, you can ask. I will try to answer. But as I am in very preliminary stage of analysis, I think that there more analysis can be done, and I will go through those. Thank you. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Nilashri, I just have a question to you. It was a nice informative session. So
Thank
as
you,
far
ma'am.
as I understand that you have collected some data, and based on the data, you have prepared one corpus sort of thing, right? It's a kind of your data set which I understood.
Yeah, yes, yeah, ma'am.
Where exactly is your technical contribution? Can you tell me, have you applied any NLP or any machine learning model on that? Or is it a simple database collection?
The recording
No.
has stopped.
Till now, I didn't have any, I didn't use any tool or something. I have just worked on I have just
This
analyzed,
meeting is being recorded.
I have just analyzed those data and
Yeah.
statistical. I have done some statistical analysis till now, but I will use some tools and some to proceed in further research work.
Right, right. I just wanted to know about that statistical analysis. How did you do that? I mean, which kind of techniques have you used to conclude the thing?
That is mean, median, mode, standard variation. All these I have applied to take the numbers
How is it
of
any
the
correlate?
patient and their opinions and make the histogram.
All right. So you have not applied any NLP technique or any other thing, right?
Till
It's just a
now I
manual.
haven't applied, but
So is it just a manual?
till now I haven't applied any NLP or but in future as the work will proceed, we will apply those NLP in future.
And one more thing, I just wanted to ask you that what is the use of making this corpus? I mean, how it can be beneficial for this kind of research?
Yeah, that I have already mentioned, ma'am. Till I am explaining that in the developed countries they have good
Yeah,
data.
they are under insurance. That I understood. And
Yeah,
we Indians,
but
we are not.
as the Indian patients are not under insurance, we don't know the exact number of the patient who are suffering from this disease. At the cost of the medicines and the treatment is very, very high, and they are not included any insurance, and the government hospitals are also can't provide those medicines. Then most of the patients, they are not under treatment. So we
Yeah,
want to know that the
okay.
exact number of the patients who are suffering, so that we can raise to the government to
All right.
have some benefits for those patients who are not under coverage.
All right, I understood that part. So, is it only to know the number? How many patients suffering from this AIDS?
The corpus analysis is only basis of the number, the stage of the disease, and how the insurance company give reasons that why they don't provide the insurance. That we have to, that the analysis, the corpus will make sure that if they are how they think that there are mostly heart attack, this type of more comorbidities are there. So if we include them in our medical insurance, then there will be
It's okay. It's okay.
loss.
Thank you.
And this is
It's
also
okay,
impact
Nilashree.
on the socially.
It's okay. Done.
There is,
Thank you. Thank you. Done. It's okay. I don't have further questions.
okay. It will help to apply any ML based research in future. That's why we have made this corpus first. Then we will try to analysis in different from different point of view. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes. I don't have any questions. So if anyone don't have any other questions, we can ask for the next.
Okay, thank you. So paper ID number 16.
Yes, I'm here.
So you people can start, okay?
Okay. Let me show. That's right. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah?
Yes, yes, it's visible. You can start.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I am Abdel Jebo from School of Information and Software Engineering, University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. So my paper title is, as you see, workload prediction of virtual machines using integrated deep learning approaches over cloud data centers. I think my voice, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, thank you. Okay, these are the contents where I'm going to cover. To use the time effectively, just I will go to the point. Okay, as we all know that cloud data center has a number of physical machines which are used to run multiple virtual machines on them. So this mechanism, this hosting, or this enables cloud providers to adopt or to use virtual machine consolidation techniques, which is used to consolidate virtual machines into into few number of physical onto a few number of physical machines as much as possible. So by using this virtual consolidation, cloud providers try to aggregate virtual machines so that they can minimize their power consumption, their data center power consumption, as well as they maximize their resource utilization. Okay, even if this virtual machine consolidation is a vital technique, incorrect consolidation, incorrect VM consolidation may lead to quality degradation and resource burden, because when we try to aggregate virtual machines to the maximum, it needs frequent live migration, which makes which leads to substantial service quality degradation and resource burden. So the most difficult or the challenging part for the cloud providers in addressing this resource inefficiency and energy usage is predicting or accurate prediction of the VM workload, the future virtual machine workloads. So this is the very or the most important problem for the they are facing, the cloud providers they are facing right now. So accurate VM workload prediction or accurate virtual machine workload prediction enables realistic provision of virtual machines, virtual machine resources. If the cloud providers are able to predict the predict the VM workloads before the encounter, or maybe 1 hour before, or 3 minutes before, it will be very or it is a good achievement for them if they can able to predict the workload of the virtual machines which is in demand. So the resources can be central processing unit, memory usage. These are the resources which to be anticipated for the workload. So initially in the paper, we assumed that we took the virtual machines historical resource usage as a time series. We treated this virtual machine resource, the history of virtual machine resource usage, as a time series data. So that time series data, essentially, it's a finite succession of measurements that are arranged in time, with the time is an independent variable. So the future resource usage can be predicted as the next one or more hour ahead. If we treat the virtual machines resource usage as a time series, that means based on this data, we can predict the future resource usage, the future workload. We can predict that. So this is a problem. So accurate resource prediction increases efficiency of resources, resource usage, and reduce the energy intake of a cloud data center. If the cloud providers are able to predict the resource accurately, they can solve this problem, which is maximum resource utilization, maximizing resource utilization, and minimizing power consumption. So as a result, the resource utilization of each virtual machine can be defined as a series of pointers in the form of time series data. This is so to forecast one step ahead of the workload for the ICE virtual machines, for example, the workload prediction function uses the previous S minus R. The previous history will be used to will be used as an input to predict the future. We call this the previous time. We call it the lag value. So the lag information can be stated as vprev, virtual machine prev. That means vi S minus R. So R represents the lag point. So S is the current until the history until the current time now, right now. So going back the previous R until R point. So by using this input, we can predict the upcoming workload or the upcoming resource usage. So that based on this information, the cloud providers can arrange their resources. That can be the CPU, they can arrange the CPU, the memory, the disk, like that. So there will not be over provisioning of resources and provisioning of. Okay, thank you. So there are several researches done here. Sorry for the pronunciation. Mandra Pratap presented used a long short-term memory neural network to estimate the future server load, and the paper author M4 developed. It also used the buy list to dynamically handle workload during runtime. And there are also other authors like author number 5 used LSTM, BiLSTM, grew to forecast the workload of virtual machines and like that. So these are also the references. For example, paper 7 uses CNN with LSTM. It is a hybrid kind of model they use. And paper 8 also LSTM and seasonal SARIMA, they used that like that. So let me, so here, one thing I want to mention is the high-level characteristics obtained by correlated VMS. Most of the papers use train their model by using single VM
Yes.
workload data.
Screen is not changing. Hello, your slide isn't fixed. Okay.
Really? What about now?
Now still I am getting your first slide.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Yeah, now it's changed.
Okay, it's changed.
Okay, you can proceed. Better
Okay.
you can give the presentation mode, then it will be better. Otherwise, you are sitting on a single slide.
Okay, okay. What about now? Convolutional neural network.
Yeah, now it is there. Okay, start.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So this is the convolutional neural network, which is, as we know, convolutional network, convolutional CNN is very effective in computer vision. And we here in this paper, the 1D CNN is used because our research problem is a time series forecasting. So this is the architecture. We use here two conv1D, two layer of convolutional one-dimensional CNN, and the max pooling, the flatten, and the dense layer for the output. So the 1D CNN is typically used to process the sequential data. Oh, this is the long short-term memory. We also use, I think you can see the detail here. And the other thing is the bidirectional long short memory is used in our case. So rather than encoding the sequence in the forward direction only, we encode it in the backward direction as well, and concatenate the results from both the forward and backward LSTM at each time step. So we use this, and this is the proposed model. And here is the forecasting data, the raw data for the randomly selected 20 VMs from the Planet Lab. And there is the one-dimensional data, then max pooling, the flatten, and we have integrated this the CNN with the bidirectional LSTM, then followed by the two dense layer. Okay, so this is the parameters just we used for to configure our model. Such to output filter for the 1D CNN, four kernel size, the ReLU activation function, to rise, no padding. These are all the configurations here. So the experimental dataset, as I mentioned before, this study discusses the prediction of CPU consumption of 20 randomly selected VMs, and the proposed model is accessed using a CPU usage dataset obtained through the Planet Lab platform. So this Planet Lab has over 1,000 nodes distributed over 700 sites worldwide. So we used those data, the CPU usage of the data from the Planet Lab, and the ratio is 730, and every data is normalized to 0, 1 for early convergence. So the deep learning model input vector is, we use the central CPU usage data history window for the entire VMs. That means for the randomly selected 20 VMs. Okay, this is the results for, we have compared our model with three other models.
You please change your slide. Slide is fixed on
I'm changing
convolution.
actually. I don't know. Maybe my PC. Actually, I am on the way.
No, you are not presenting. You have not given in the presentation mode. That's why. Okay. Now it's come result and analysis.
Yeah. So the suggested employed the widely known Adam optimizer with the learning of 0.001 at 60 epoch. And this is the result. As you see, the proposed hybrid CNN by LSTM model beat the other deep learning models in the future for 4 time intervals. That means for 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 30 minutes, and 1 hour, which is measured by root mean squared and mean absolute error. So this is the model conversion, and as you see on the screen, the model loss function of the model prediction versus the ground truth is, very well trained, and the model performs well on the training and the validation data. Okay, so in this paper, effective integrated deep learning model for predicting VM workload in a cloud data center is proposed. So during the design, experimentation, assessment, 4 deep learning models were created, deployed, and assessed for forecasting the VM CPU usage. That is CNN, LSTM, BiLSTM, and CNN BiLSTM. So the suggested model was compared to the commonly used, which are mentioned above. So the experimental results clearly showed that the proposed model achieves a higher degree of prediction accuracy for 4 time intervals: 5 minutes, 1, 5, 30 minutes, and 60-minute time intervals. So, which reveals that the proposed approach outperforms all others in the workload prediction of numerous virtual machines in a cloud environment. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Okay, thank you. If anybody wants to ask any questions.
Which data set you have used? And how many features are there in your data set?
Yeah, okay, thank you. I've used Planet Lab datasets and 20 virtual machines.
What is the number of records and how many features are there?
The future is only I use CPU usage.
Okay, if anyone has any other questions, you may ask.
Okay, then, thank you. So,
Thank you very much.
paper ID number 20. Paper ID number 20.
Hello.
Yes, yes, you can start.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, I am Devkant. I am presenting my paper.
Your voice is very low. I don't know whether others can
Yes,
hear
we
you.
can hear properly.
If you can please check your mic and your internet connection once.
Yes, is it now audible?
Yes, yes, now it's audible.
Okay, our paper name is performance analysis of recursion full adders in noisy intermediate scale quantum device. Quantum computers are the most prominent substitute.
Sorry for the
class-
interruption, but even now I cannot hear you properly. Could you please be a bit louder so that we can hear you clearly?
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's better.
Okay, so quantum computers are the most prominent substitute for classical computers because they can perform certain operations significantly faster than classical algorithms or classical computers. Recent progress of quantum computers has significantly widened and provided efficient remedies to quantum chemistry, quantum machine learning, and quantum cryptography. So, here we okay. So here we use So here we use reversible full adder quantum circuit. Actually, reversible full adders in quantum circuit is actually when you use classical gates like AND gates or gates, we get the one output, and we provide one or more than one inputs. But in reversible quantum bits, we get the number of inputs as the number of outputs. That's mean if we provide two inputs and then we get two outputs. So elementary quantum gates and their implementation. We have to discuss the various type of quantum gates like classical gates. Here we discuss about identity gates. It's similar to the classical gates. The identity gates actually gives the output similar to the as we provide input. If we provide inputs as one, we get the output as one. It's not like a wire. It does not depend on any inputs. And another one is NOT gate. This NOT gate, quantum NOT gate, is similar to classical NOT gates. In classical NOT gates, we provide if we provide 0, we get 1. Similar to these classical gates, we find the quantum gates. If we provide 0, we get 1s. Okay. And the next gate is control NOT gate. We called it as Feynman gate or CNOT gate. The interesting thing is in CNOT gate, if this gets acts actually in two inputs qubits, right? If we and the output will be depend on the first input. If we if the first input became high, that's mean became 1, at then the second output will be effect and second output will be not of the second output, the second input. That's mean if we yeah, this is the matrix. If we provide 0 0, right? In that case, A will be 0 and B will be 0. The first input A is 0, so that's not effect on second input, and we get the second output as B XOR A. If we provide 1 0, that's mean A is 1, then B will be the negative of B. That's when we get 1. And similar to this gates, this is the two inputs qubit gates that call it Feynman gate. And another gate is Toffoli gate. In Toffoli gate, we provide 3 inputs and get 3 outputs. Right. Similar to that, this Feynman gate, this Toffoli gate acts only when A and B. That means the first two input will be high state, then the third input will be the negative or negation of the third input, right? So we can write the output as C XOR A. So if we draw the matrix representation of that gate, so we find that the identity gates, the truth table, if we provide 0, right, in identity gate, the input is 1, so we find the 2 to the power 1. That's mean 2 combination. So here is this is 0 0 and this is 1. Similarly, this is 0 and 1. In along to y-axis, so then to this, if we provide the 0, then we find 0. We get 0. So 0 0 index, we get the output as 0. So this index will be 1. And if we provide 1, we get the output 1. So this is the 1. And the index of this is 1. Okay, so next is NOT gate. If we in NOT gate we provide one input and we find one output. So there is two combination 0 and 1. This is 0 and 1. If we provide 0, we find 1. So we write the high state at 1 index. If we provide 0, then we get 1. If we provide 1, we get 0. So this index will be high, right? The interesting thing is in in Figment gate or CNOT gate. In Figment gate, there is two inputs, so combination will be 2 to the power 2. That's when 4 combination. So this is 0, 0, this is 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. Similar to this, if we provide 0, 0, we find 0 because the Figment gate or CNOT gate acts only the second input, only when the first input is high state. So here the first input is low state, that's 0. So we find 0. So this is high 1. If we provide 0, 1, that's mean first input is 0 and second input is 1. In that case, first input is in low state. So we get the second input as a second output. So that's mean 1, we get 0, 1. So here is 0, 1. And the third combination is 1, 0. In that case, the first input, that's mean A, will be in high state. So here we get the negation of second input. In that case, second input is 0. So we get the negation of second input. That's when 1, 1. So that's why we put here in 1, 1 index, 1. The fourth combination is 1, 1. In that case, the first input is in high state and the second input is 1. So we get negation of second inputs, that's mean 0. So the output will be 1, 0. That's why we put here 1. Similarly, this is the metric representation of Toffoli gate. Similarly, we can write the matrix representation from the Figment gates. That's just like the Figment gate, and we represent as a matrix. Next, we design our circuit using these quantum gates. Right? We have practically experiment our 4 circuit. In this 4 circuit, basically we collect many of circuits, and among them we mathematically solve the circuit, and we obtain our overcome result. That's mean we want to validate the full adder equation. So here in this first full adder circuit, this is the quantum circuit. First we mathematically solve this, and this circuit we simulate on the IBM Q simulator, and after that we write our code in programmatically, and we run our code on our physical device, and we get the result as and we compare the quantum outputs with the classical outputs of full adder. After that, we run this quantum circuit in actual quantum machine, like IBM server. In IBM server, we run our code in different server, like IBM Lima, IBM Bogota, IBM Lima, and many different server. So in first design, we have to solve this first design. In this case, This is the Toffoli gate. We see that in this Toffoli gate, A and B, and the third input is 0. So if we remember the truth table, the output of this Toffoli gate will be AB XOR 0. If we design XOR gate with 0, we get the AB. That's why here we get AB. And second is, this is the CNOT gate. We get at this point output as XOR B. And this output will be input of this Toffoli gate. Here the input is XOR B, and it is AND, logically AND with C input, and the output will be A XOR B and C all XOR this input A XOR B. And in this point, our input is A XOR B, and A XOR B, this is XOR or CNOT with another input C. So at this point, we get output as A XOR B XOR C. That's valid the summation of full adder equation in classical full adder circuit. And at this point, we get the carry of full adder circuit. The equation of this carry at this point is A XOR B and C, all XOR with A and B. And if we simplify or solve this equation, we get the C out as the classical carry, classical full adder carry. That's is A and B XOR B and C XOR C and A. Similarly, we solve this design 2 and solve design 3 and 4. And after that, we run our this quantum circuit programmatically on IBM server. That's the actual quantum machine. And we get that in design 1, if we provide a 0, 0, in classical full adder, we get 0, 0, but in quantum circuit, we also obtain 0, 0, and besides that, we also obtain many other values like 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. So here we, if we observe this bar graph, we run our first circuit in 3 different servers: IBM-Q Manila, IBM-Q Lima, and IBM-Q Santiago. If in first server, that's mean IBM-Q Manila, if we provide 0, 0, we get almost 800% in out of 10 24 shots. That's mean if we run our circuit 10 24 times in IBM-Q Manila server, we obtain 0, 0 800 times. Similarly, we run our if we run our circuit in IBM-Q Lima, we get almost 900 times 0, 0. And similarly, IBM Santiago. If we provide 0, 1, our outcome value will be 0, 1 in classical full adder. But here we obtain 0, 1. Besides that, we obtain many others value 0, 0, 1, 0, and 1, 1. Actually, these values are noisy. In quantum circuit, we observe that we obtain many noisy besides our output. And if we provide 1, 0, 1, our expected outcome will be 0, 1. But we often that our output will be similarly 0, 1, and besides that we obtain the many others noise. Similarly, we run our design 2, design 3, and design 4, and we also observe that in design 2, the noisy of our quantum circuit is usable, but in the circuit 1, we did not obtain so much noisy respect to the design 2. Right? In design 2, if we provide 0, 0, 0, we often 0, 0, 0. But in that case, we also often 0, 1, and also often 1, 0, and 1, 1. But the probability of finding this output will very much. If we consider the IBM Manila, then if we provide 0, 0, 0 as input, the output will be 0, 0, almost 300 times. But we also obtain the 0, 1 almost 200 times out of 1024 shots, and also often 1, 0 almost 300 or 310 times, and also often 1, 1 almost 200 times. Similar to if we provide 0, 0, 1, we also obtain this outcome, but this not satisfy or this not fulfill our the requirement of classical full adders like design 1. In design 3, we also obtain the almost correct answer similar to design 1, and also design 4, we obtain the similarity result of design 1 and design 3. After that, we think that if we mitigate this error, and after that we observe how much accurate or how much most probably value we obtain similar to classical full adder. So we write our codes, or we correct our code as error mitigation. So if we draw this design 1, design 2, design 3, and design 4, the outcome of this 4 design in one graph, we find such type of graph. Here we run our codes in 1024 shots, 480 shots, and 5124 shots. In different IBMQ server, like IBMQ Lima, Santiago, Bogota. And if we get our outcome similar or exact with classical full adders, we find a straight graph, a straight line. But here we find that there is some curve, or this is the polygon graph. If we notice this line in 0, 0, it gets the high value of this graph. But if we provide 0, 1, the probability of finding the outputs exact with classical AND gate is decreased a little bit. In this, if we provide 0, 1, it will decrease a little bit. And similar to if we fill this graph, we often such type of graphs. And in this graph, we show our design 1, 2, 3, 4 in 1. After that, we mitigate our output so that we can obtain our output exact with classical and classical full adder circuit. So if we this is the graph, this is the pie chart of design 1, 3, 4 graphs. The quantum circuits are generated exploiting two elements of history. The circuit are built and execute on real packet is Terra and simulated in air. So if we see this design 1, here we provide input as 100. So our output will be 0, 1. But if we see this design 1, before mitigation, we obtain almost 700 out of 100. But after mitigation, we obtain almost 800, 900 or almost 910 out of 100. In design 2, we provide 0, 1, 1. In that case, our output will be 1, 0. In that case, before mitigation, we obtain 0, 1, about 320. But after mitigation, we obtain our result 0, 1 as 410. Besides that, we also obtain the noisy. Before mitigation, we obtain noisy huge amount, but after mitigation, we obtain the noisy, and we decrease the noisy. In design 3, we provide 111. So our overall output will be 11. In that case, before mitigation, we obtain almost 550, near about 550. But after mitigation, we obtain near about 650. Similar to design 4, we provide input as 101. So our output will be 10. But before mitigation, we obtain 0 value near about 600. After mitigation, we get the 0 near about 800. So we conclude that among this design 1, design 2, design 3, and design 4, design 1 give almost near about classical full adder circuit, and we often similar output as classical full adder circuit. Here we reference many different books, many different sources. So this is our reference to implement our this circuit or thank you to give me opportunity to present our research paper. Thank you. Is there any question? So you can ask me. I will try to answer. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Could you please just tell me the application of this, designing this kind of circuits? I didn't get that part. Where are the application areas?
If we see that in classical computers, if we see that in classical computing, if we give the complex mathematical, it takes much more time. But in quantum computing, or if we quantum full adder or quantum circuit, this complex mathematical will be solved in few seconds or less than the time that taken in classical computing.
Okay. And no more question from my side.
Okay, I have one question. So I think these type of designs are already available. So what is your contribution?
So this circuit is available, but we conclude that we have to understand if this circuit, if we implement or if we implement in IBM actual quantum machine, then what the output and what if this output will be vary or this output will be similar to classical full adders. So we just check this and we conclude that there is many noise that will not occur in classical full adders. And we also mitigate all the errors. After that, we also find some noise that cannot be cancelled.
Okay, another little bit questions that is for my curiosity. So you have learned executed that in different IBM servers. So how to
Yes,
get
yes.
that things?
Actually, we cannot perform this in our physical machine. So, what we say, we programize this circuit and run in remotely on IBM server, different server like IBM Qlima, IBM Bogota, and to find that output and plot this output in different type of graphs like bar graphs, statistical graphs.
Okay, thank you. If anyone has any other questions, they may ask. Otherwise, we'll go for the next participant.
Thank you. Is there any questions, sir? Am I audible, sir?
Yes, you are audible.
So is there any question? Stop.
I hope there are no more questions.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Thank you. This was the last paper for this session. Somen sir, if you are here,
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Umesh, have you done with your session?
Yes, yes. We have already finished the 4 papers.
Okay. So you may close the session if you want. If everything is over, then you may close the session. I think Dr. Anesha Mukherjee is there. Shantanu sir is also there.
Yes, yes, yes. So they are all here.
Ma'am, ma'am and sir, I'm requesting you.
Yeah,
Can we
all the
close
paper
the
is
session?
over.
Yeah.
If all the paper, then you may close. I have no problem.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nilanjana madam is there. Nilanjana madam, all is done.
Yes, everything is
Okay, okay, ma'am.
Okay, thank you everyone.
Thank you for your valuable time that you are giving here to just this session. Thanks a lot.
okay. Thanks for your invitation. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone.
Okay, bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
End